Alright, hey guys, so I've been asked to do a tutorial for GarageBand, so I'm going to do a quick one, and it's going to be on how to record different types of tracks and what the different types of tracks in GarageBand are. This is not a comprehensive tutorial. If you want to learn to mix or master stuff or arrange stuff or make a song, this is not for you. This is how you do anything at all. This is the bare bones, the basic stuff. If you've never done GarageBand before, then this is what you're like. This is the video for you. So once you open up GarageBand, you're gonna see this kind of window. You're gonna click Empty Project. You could choose a project template. I would suggest an empty project, just because that way you have a little more stuff to play with, and it's a little more original. So choose that, and we're going to start off with a microphone. And when you do this, if you have a microphone connected, like I'm using an AT2020 USB right now, and if you have a microphone connected, or you have a microphone through an audio interface connected, or you're just using your built-in mic with your computer or your headphones, you're going to be able to hear yourself when this button right here is clicked and orange. And then you have different patches here, basically. And if you click on them, then you have different presets, and they can make you sound different. For instance, this is the fuzz vocal, and this is what it sounds like when it's all fuzzed up. And you have other ones like here and here and here, and it's making a lot of difference here, but I don't think you guys are going to be able to hear it, so you're going to just have to do it for yourself. I suggest you play around with it. It's kind of fun. And if you want to record your actual vocals, because right now you're not doing anything, right? You can either press the record button and it'll start recording the stuff like you can see right here, or you could also, instead, you could press R on your keyboard and it will start recording it. And if for some reason you want to record it, but you don't want it to stop playing after you're done recording, you can press R or this again, and it'll keep going on. Sometimes it's useful. Most of the time, it's not really that useful. So, yeah. So that's mostly it for the recording vocals. Now, the other types of tracks are a guitar track or a bass track, and basically you connect an audio interface through it, right? And that's pretty much all you're doing. You're plugging in your audio interface into your computer, you're plugging in your guitar into your audio interface, and then you're recording it. It's pretty simple, pretty cool. You have different types of presets depending on what you're doing. You have all these different kind of stuff. You can adjust stuff here, and that's just basic adjustments, right? So yeah, we're not gonna mess around with that too much because it's not particularly useful, and we're gonna delete that track. So we also have a drummer track, and this is for if you're like, you are let's say you had recorded a guitar and you wanted to have drums, but you're terrible at playing the drums, or you're not good at programming drums, right? Then you could go onto this drummer track and you just click whichever type of thing you're doing. So there's indie pop, there's indie disco, indie rock, garage rock, synth pop, da-da-da-da. There's also different types of styles. So for instance, there's Dez, he does trap, Anton, modern hip hop. Let's do that actually, that sounds kind of interesting. Then with this, you can adjust what it sounds like. You see how the pattern is changing right over here? That's what you're changing. You can also add this sort of stuff in if you want, and we'll just let you hear it for a second. So yeah, that's basically what that is. I suggest honestly you don't use it unless you're just beginning, because it doesn't really sound that natural, and I don't think it sounds particularly good. Some people can disagree with me. That's their own choice. Usually I prefer to program my own drums, since usually I'm doing hip hop music. So for this is a MIDI track. Basically, this is a software instrument track. So from it, you could connect a MIDI keyboard, and you'd get a little pop-up that said you added a MIDI keyboard. Um, and basically all that's doing is it's letting you play. If you have a piano or an electric keyboard at home, almost all of them have a little USB port, and usually they're printer ports, which is kind of annoying, but that's just the audio standard for some reason. Printer port to USB, and you can just plug that into your computer, and that'll work for almost everything. It works for a lot of USB mics too. So yeah, and then from there you can just play stuff. You could also just, if you don't have that, you could press Command K, and now you can play stuff, right? And that's mostly what you're doing. So for instance, the thing about MIDI that I like for, say, programming drums, so we're gonna take this drum kit, right, and we're gonna just program something super quick. It's gonna be really not nice, but whatever. That's not it. you know So now, when you hear it, it's gonna sound like this. Like I said, kind of ugly, kind of nasty, but you can play around with it, make it your own. If you want to have a specific bounce, a specific flavor to your drums, that's what you want to do. If you want to have a specific pattern or an instrument that you don't usually have, you can do that. There's tons of them online that you can just download and put in. If you're going to do that, make sure that it comes in audio units, because audio units is the only thing GarageBand can process. If you're just beginning, there's quite a few different instruments here. You're probably not going to be bogged down by them, but if you've been doing it for a while, you might be, right? So yeah, that's kind of cool. And that's mostly it, right? So for this, you can do all that. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention was that when you record stuff, so look, I'm going to record something right now, blah-de-da, blah-de-do. All right, so if I press this scissor button, that's the edit button, I can move around and I can make smaller adjustments, smaller scale adjustments. If I need to go bigger or I need to go like super small, like I could even go down to like the wavelength right there. You see that? And that's not usually super useful, let's be honest. But sometimes you just want to have that. So the really powerful part of this is that if you press this, it goes into flex time, and with that you can change the actual timing of what you're saying, right? It's kind of cool. So let's just mess this up really bad, right? There we go. That'll be really messed up, I hope. So let's give you a listen. Hopefully that was messed up. If it's not, then whatever. But you can do some weird trippy effects with that, or if you're like a little offbeat but you really liked your vocal take, you can also adjust it with that. I suggest maybe not using that all the time or too much, just because you should give a good recording. You shouldn't have to edit it that much. or really at all. I know for me, I almost never edit my vocals just because I don't feel it's very necessary most of the times. But, sometimes it is. Um, a tip for recording is when you're recording, make sure that there's not really anything else around you. Because if you have other stuff around you, or you're recording two things at once, so let's say you're recording a piano and a vocal, or a piano, a vocal, and a guitar all at once, you might have really good rhythm, you might have great chemistry, but that's going to end up in some pretty nasty recordings because you're going to have noise bleed. So, for instance, let's say I'm singing and I'm snapping and I'm trying to do it in two different things. You see how there's noise bleed and you can hear me snapping? That's going to ruin your recording. So, you might not think it's a big deal now, but when you're going to actually mix it and process the vocals and your instruments, it's going to be a real big bummer for you. So, yeah, that's basically the gist of it. So have fun. And if you're ever wondering, actually, here's one thing. If you're ever wondering how many tracks you can add, well, you can add a lot of tracks. See, all these different tracks, you can basically go till your computer breaks. I think the actual limit is like 100 or 115 tracks, but I don't even know what you'd have to be doing to get to that many tracks. I have no clue how you could get to that many tracks. If ever you found something you really liked and you messed with it, and then you wanted to duplicate it, just double click. You could either right click, or if you're on a trackpad, just have 2-finger click, and then you can just press new track with duplicate settings, and boom, there you go. That's mostly it. And yeah, have a good time making your music, and see you later.